I might be totally crazy here, but I think I just pieced together the plot for Spider-Man Brand New Day, and honestly, it kinda makes way too much sense. We already know Mark Ruffalo's back as Bruce Banner, right? And then more recently, Jon Bernthal got confirmed as the Punisher, but I couldn't wrap my head around the idea of Bruce and Peter teaming up. I mean, come on, they've barely shared a scene in the MCU, not even one proper conversation. So at first, I was like, why would he even be in a Spider-Man movie? And then you throw Frank Castle into the mix, that completely threw me off. Like, what kind of story needs Spider-Man, the Hulk, and the Punisher all together? But then I did what I always do when Marvel tosses a curveball. I just sat back, brewed myself an espresso, and started digging through every clue we've got. And slowly, the dots started connecting. Now, I'll admit, Tom Holland himself kinda gave me the missing piece.
So it's gonna feel like making Spider-Man 1 again. You know, it's been such a long time since I've done it. It's going to feel like a breath of fresh air. I think the fans are going to be over the moon with what we're putting together.
Now, obviously, when he says Spider-Man 1, he means Homecoming. But I think he chose those words really carefully, because the vibe he's hinting at, it feels way more like a full-on origin story reset. And here's where it gets interesting. Just last month, Alex Perez from the Cosmic Circus, who, by the way, has a pretty great track record with Marvel scoops, was asked this: with Hulk being in Spider-Man Brand New Day, will he be the main villain? Or is he more of a mentor figure for Peter? Does this also tie right into Doomsday, to where they will come in together? And Alex said, and I want you to pay attention here, what I heard involves a connection dating back to the earliest days of the MCU and exploring some uncharted territory for both characters' personal histories. What if that connection is Bruce Banner himself? Like back in some early experimental phase, he's the one who accidentally created the radioactive spider that bit Peter Parker. Think about it. We've heard Peter's origin story in Civil War and Homecoming, but we've never actually seen it. And in this new world, with no one remembering Peter, it's the perfect time to revisit that origin and show us how it really went down. And honestly, what better way to make it feel like Spider-Man 1 again than to reveal Bruce Banner, in his early research days, unknowingly changed Peter's life forever. So here's how I see it. If Marvel's actually tying Bruce and Peter together, two characters who have barely shared a frame in the MCU, this might be the way they do it. Imagine this. Before Bruce became the Hulk, before the Gamma experiments went sideways, he was working on recreating the super soldier serum. He and his team were experimenting with genetic enhancements using spiders. Now, the goal wasn't to make Spider-Man, it was to make another Captain America, but maybe, just maybe, one of those enhanced spiders escaped, and eventually, it found its way to a young Peter Parker. The crazy part is, the MCU has never told us how that spider came to be. No origin, no lab, no Osborn. It's always been a blank space. But if Brand New Day really connects Bruce to Peter's story, and that's the earliest MCU link Alex teased, this could fill in that blank. And it wouldn't just explain the spider, it would also reframe something that's been hiding in plain sight. Because in Spider-Man Homecoming, during Peter's physics class, there's a row of framed portraits on the wall, and right next to Newton and Curie, there's Bruce Banner. At the time, it felt like a fun little Easter egg. But if Bruce actually had a hand in Peter's origin, that Easter egg suddenly becomes retroactive foreshadowing. And honestly, Peter and Bruce being tied together through science just makes sense. They're both geniuses. They both wrestle with the fallout of their powers. Their lives were changed forever by experiments gone wrong, or in Peter's case, maybe gone right. So yeah, having Bruce involved in creating the spider not only links their stories, it sets up this future science bros dynamic we've never gotten before. And thematically, it fits too. Because remember, Bruce was shocked when he first heard about Spider-Man.
There's an Ant-Man and a Spider-Man?
He had no idea this kid even existed. Let me break the timeline down real quick. After Age of Ultron in 2015, Bruce goes off-world. Peter debuts in Civil War in 2016, already 6 months into being Spider-Man. During Infinity War, Bruce is in Wakanda, while Peter's off in space. Then Peter gets snapped. When he comes back in Endgame, they're still separated. The only time they're even in the same frame is at Tony Stark's funeral, and even then, no dialogue. So if they ever spoke, it happened off-camera, and we've never seen it. And that's why it would be such a brilliant twist. Like, imagine finding out Bruce was part of Peter's story long before either of them even realized it. That kind of retcon? It doesn't feel cheap, it actually feels authentic. And it finally gives Marvel the perfect excuse to explore Peter's origin on screen. Marvel loves doing this stuff. You know, taking some tiny background detail, layering in new meaning, and suddenly you're rewatching old movies like, oh wait, that actually mattered? So, if Brand New Day is about fresh starts and hidden pasts, then Bruce Banner secretly being the architect of Spider-Man's origin? That's one hell of a kickoff. But there's another angle here. Bruce might not just be a piece of Peter's past. He could show up as his professor, like an actual mentor figure. Remember, by the end of No Way Home, Peter moves into a small New York apartment and is seen studying for the GED test, so we might actually see him earning that diploma in Brand New Day and then applying to college. And this is where the MCU could introduce Empire State University. That's the door to characters like Gwen Stacy, Harry Osborn, even Miles Morales. But let's be real, you don't bring Mark Ruffalo back just to sit in a classroom. If he's in this movie, he's hulking out, no question. And that's where Mr. Negative comes in. The title Brand New Day comes right from the comics, and one of the major villains from that arc, Martin Lee, Mr. Negative himself. Marvel's reportedly looking to cast an Asian actor between 30 and 50 for Spider-Man 4. That lines up almost perfectly with Martin Lee. So here's my theory. Martin Lee runs Feast, right? The same place Aunt May poured her heart into. On the surface, he's this noble, trustworthy guy, like the definition of pillar of the community. But behind the scenes, total crime boss, running a gang, doing all the shady, illegal stuff. At some point, he goes head-to-head with Bruce Banner, and when he hits Bruce with that negative energy, Banner hulks out. But this time, something's different. Instead of green, we get Grey Hulk, savage, unstable, completely under Martin Lee's control, and this does two things. First, it depowers Hulk just enough to make a three-way fight with Spider-Man and Punisher actually believable. Second, it gives us a comic-accurate Hulk redesign. Just imagine a mind-controlled Grey Hulk beating the shit out of Spider-Man, and then the Punisher comes to the rescue and carries a wounded Spidey just like in the comics. It'd be chaos. And honestly, it's exactly the kind of Hulk mayhem we've been missing. Plus, it set up a Monster Hulk storyline for Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars. And maybe even tease up a future World War Hulk film if Marvel plays it right. Now, let's shift to Frank Castle. The last time we saw him, he was breaking out of that cage at the end of Daredevil Born Again Season 1. He's on the run. And that leads right into his Disney Plus special presentation. That story's about him hunting down Wilson Fisk, but along the way, Frank stumbles into something way darker. He crosses paths with the Inner Demons. Now, if you've read the comics or played the Spider-Man PS4 game, you know exactly who they are. The Inner Demons are the private army of Mr. Negative, and they're neck deep in New York's criminal underworld. We're talking drug trafficking, extortion, illegal gambling, even human trafficking. And if there's one thing Frank Castle doesn't tolerate, it's that kind of evil. So Frank starts dismantling this gang piece by piece, and in doing so, he becomes the first person to figure out that the man running the Inner Demons is Martin Lee. But Martin Lee isn't just a crime boss, he's also the well-respected head of Feast. To the public, he's a savior. To Peter Parker, he's a symbol of hope, someone who is keeping Aunt May's legacy alive. So imagine the tension when Frank shows up and tells Peter flat out, Lee's not who you think he is, Red, he's dirty, and he's running this city from the shadows. This sets up some serious emotional conflict, because now Peter is forced to question everything. Is Martin Lee the man who gave so much to the people Peter's trying to protect, or the monster poisoning the city from within? And for Frank, this is easy. He doesn't care about legacies or reputations. He sees a bad guy, he takes him down. So now you've got Spider-Man and Punisher, two totally different kinds of heroes, forced to work together. One thinks with his heart, the other thinks with a scope. And just to raise the stakes even more, what if Martin Lee is also gunning for Wilson Fisk? Imagine Brand New Day putting Mr. Negative and Kingpin on a collision course, two crime lords, each trying to control the city in their own way, while Spider-Man and Punisher are caught in the crossfire. I think Spider-Man Brand New Day could give us something really special. So yeah, if you're as hyped as I am, make some noise in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.